After 8 years, Fortnite revealed every scrapped update. One is a full season. Today we're looking at what, but more importantly, why these never saw the light of day, like the Unreleased Juice WRLD skin. Because it turns out originally he would have looked completely different. In the early leaks of his outfit, you can see that his dreads were actually reactive to emotes. He basically had RGB hair.
Take back the love that I gave you.
So when people discovered this, most of them understood why Epic decided to scrap this because it just didn't look the best. More recently, we also got the Squid Game crossover, and it turns out Epic leaked a dance that was meant to drop with it. In one of their promo videos, you can see the contestants and guards using a cancelled mingle dance emote. Personally, I think Thanos' mingle dance would have been way cooler, but it doesn't matter since neither of these are ever coming out. Even though those are both scrap collabs, they still don't compare to the entire cancelled season from Chapter 3. Because recently, so many deleted files were discovered that would have released instead of Vibin. That's right, that was never supposed to happen. Instead, Epic were working on a system where you could cook food in a pot. Now, this wasn't just a small update. It would have let you cook over 13 different dishes, including fish sticks, fruit salad, and Slurpee versions. Not gonna lie, the concept art looks delicious. The second part of this scrap season was Epic working on wildlife at the same time, like a glorious meeple. I know it looks like a red boar, but this apparently was gonna be able to fly. There were also Galactus gatherers designed to be wildlife, along with bears and rats. Apparently the bears are gonna be tameable and would attack with a lunge and a swipe. Rats would have had their own nests they spawn from and just probably swarm enemies. So what was the battle pass gonna look like? Well, there was Snap, who actually dropped in Chapter 3 as a fully customizable action figure. Except in this version, he had a baby head. That's just freaking terrifying. All of this cut content indicates that Vibin was actually going to be a totally different season before Donald Mustard decided to retire and host a goodbye party for himself. And there's further proof of this because of all the scrapped exotics from this time. I mean, what if I told you that Epic were working on a boogie bomb launcher? This would have gone down as the most infamous item in Fortnite history. Like, sure, it would have been super overpowered, but imagine the chaos. I kind of want it to happen now that I think about it. Then we had exotics like a bow minigun and a balloon sniper. No idea what this bow minigun would have been like, but the balloon sniper, it sounds like you could shoot enemies and then it would just give them balloons. And there's so many exotics that I can't talk about them all. So here's the whole list. I want to highlight the automatic crossbow because it sounds really interesting. That item has always been kind of weak, so it'd be amazing with full auto. Let's head back all the way to Chapter 1. The first LTM was going to have a crazy item. As we all know, 50v50 was our first custom mode in BR, and it was originally going to include the Ultra Porta Fortress. Like, seeing how huge this is makes you realize why the 50v50 trailer showed giant fort battles. And I will say I'm pretty bummed out that Fortnite scrapped an incredible Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie reference. Because apparently during their collab, Epic were working on an emote for Go Ninja Go. It looks like they couldn't get the rights to it, or maybe there were other problems because sadly, it just never happened. Still not as crazy as learning Mortal Kombat was gonna have an entire mode. That's right, leakers revealed it would have an LTM full of boons and mythics. And then after digging in just a little bit more, apparently it was scrapped mid-development. Despite the fact it would have included powers like the Icy Slide and Zero Chance boons, both of which are now in game. So I guess they just decided to throw all of it in a normal BR instead of its own mode. Things get super weird when you realize that the handcuffs from the Star Wars event were originally gonna be cosmetics. That's right, ever since February 2025, leakers have been showing off concept art of customizable cuffs. There are so many times these could have existed, from rumored handcuff emotes to a possible wanted mechanic in the Lawless season. The fact we saw them in the Death Star event proves they're real after all, except it looks like they've been scrapped as cosmetics. I don't blame them because I personally wouldn't be rushing to spend V-Bucks on handcuffs. But I do see us rushing to play basketball on Fortnite. Now this has actually been scrapped multiple times, and yet part of me feels like it's still in the works. I'm not just talking about basketball toys you could throw around the map. This was gonna be an entire sports mode. So where did it begin? Well, it was first revealed in the Apple vs Epic court documents where you can see their plans laid out, and take a look at it. Like, it looks awesome. It's straight up an NBA rival in Fortnite. Sadly, it just never happened, and then in 2024, our hopes were lifted during the Big Bang event. Fast forward to the very end, they showed all of the universes, and right here you can see a basketball mode, clearly indicating indicating they're still working on it. And just a few months later, they removed the ability to make shots with the hoops across the map, making the toy from Chapter 1 useless. And so while it's been 5 years since we learned about this mode, most people assume it is scrapped. My hopes are still high though, but we will probably never get the canceled My Hero Academia mythics. Back when this collab was taking over the game, Fortnite were working on mythics for Reworked that would give us zero gravity, and Bakugo who would let us use his gloves. As you know, it just never made it to the light of day. Back in 2022, in a random update, we saw this doll and a floral wrap get added to the files, with the same codename called Pancake Day. You probably celebrate it or have at least heard of it, but in Russia this takes up a whole week, and these were directly tied to the folk holiday and were expected to release right around that time. But just as Epic were planning it, real-world events took hold. Even Fortnite got involved with the Ukraine flag made out of containers on the map and donating over $100 million to humanitarian relief. So obviously with all of this, a Russian-themed event for free rewards, that would have been in bad taste, so it was scrapped entirely. The same seemed to happen to a feature we were all waiting for, going prone. I can't even count the amount of times this was leaked, first expected for the open world mode, and then for Chapter 6, it just never came. It has been updated so many times, so clearly Epic still want to add it, but maybe it's just too difficult or something that got heavily delayed. We'll have to wait and see. What about the elephant garlic? Now you might be saying, Tommy, what the heck are you talking about? But this was actually one of the funniest files leaked for a brand new weapon. It was around this time in Chapter 2 that Epic started going crazy with the new items, so if you played Invasion, like you know exactly what I'm talking about. So that's why they're working on a gun that would shoot exploding balls of charged energy. It looked pretty fun, but whether it was reworked into something else or just didn't work out, it never released like this. If you're still wondering about the codename, it was called the Electric Gun, and now the initials make sense. A more recent feature was scrapped just a few years ago. Epic were trying out a brand new mechanic we had never seen before. It was called storm splitting. Towards the end of the game, the zone would literally bisect into two completely different circles, which would have led to some crazy moments and unique endgames. Some people think it was meant to be a rare chance to happen in BR, while others think it could have been a cool LTM. Ultimately, Epic never seemed to get it to work because it never saw the light of day. Also, do you remember Kado Thorne? Well, apparently he was going to be more evil than the version we got. It wasn't so long ago we were breaking into his vaults and stealing a mythic only to set off the alarms. And apparently, in early development, they also planned for this feature to fill the room with gas. It would obscure your vision and damage you. All I could say is this was one of the times I'm thankful they changed their mind, because imagine fighting off all the guards, being sealed by metal gates and avoiding all the enemies, and now your health is just ticking for 2 every second. It would be so annoying. In my opinion, it would have been far more entertaining to just set the place on fire. It was around this time that Fortnite was working on the flamethrower. Obviously, the game already had Molotov cocktails in the form of Fireflies, so this thing literally used the bugs as ammo. They officially named it the Firefly Launcher. You can send out burst shots for quick damage in the area, or just charge up a large round to fire a powerful and accurate flame sniper. And to this day, I'm honestly surprised we have never seen anything like this. But I'm not as shocked that Epic scrapped this hidden emote, because at the start of Chapter 2, leakers found files for a belly dance emote, which got people wondering. So when we rewatched the trailer for the season, the dance that Rustler is doing for just a few seconds on the screen starts to make a little bit more sense. This is the unreleased emote, and after how much party hips and other emotes blew up for all of the wrong reasons, I guess Epic decided to step in and just stop the next one before it was too late. It's not the only emote we never got, because they were also adding Beyonce. Thanks to Epic's court documents against Apple, we found a slide with a bunch of planned emotes from Say So, Gangnam Style, and more, but the only one we haven't seen yet is Single Ladies. As for original skins, Haven was one of the standouts of Chapter 3's Battle Pass, and that's why Fortnite wanted to bring her back through the item shop. In 2024, concept art surfaced of Haven's original sketches, and some of them had outfits we had never seen before. Then leakers discovered Epic were working on a Remixed Item Shop skin for Haven, but it's been over a year since then and nothing happened, making it pretty likely she has been scrapped. It's safe to say that once Donald Mustard left in 2023, he took all of the storyline with him. Not only do we know that from Epic completely changing the direction of the story, but the fact that no comic books have been released since. But this wasn't always the case, because after the Collision event, Marvel and Fortnite were working together on a follow-up called Order Restored. From the name, you can imagine it would have continued the Geno cliffhanger from the Zero War comic and explained a lot of Chapter 4 with the Reality Warriors and the Oathbound. Bad news is, in March 2024, it was permanently canceled. It's also pretty disappointing that a brand new emote can leak in the files only for you to be waiting years for it and it never releases. The unicycle, it was added in 2022, and despite being shown in trailers, it has never been in the shop. We also got the invisible stairs, which is a pretty hilarious emote that we've all done in real life at some point, and it's just been sitting in the files, never releasing. Then there's treading, a pretty hilarious emote which even got used by the Bright Raider NPC for the whole of Wrecked, but what about us, Epic? Can we use it? No. Finally, there's Deep Thought, another emote that's actually a reference to the Thinker memes, whether it's the original statue or this kid pondering life. It would have been funny to use. Sadly, it is just collecting dust in the files. At least they fixed that mistake with the F1 skins. These guys were added in one update, but stayed encrypted in the files as a surprise release. Thankfully, Epic forgot to hide some of the images, otherwise we would never know they even existed because they never got decrypted. Just a couple of updates later, it was silently removed. Some people theorize they didn't get permission from all the F1 teams, or that constant redesigns to their uniforms instantly outdated them. So instead, this set of defaults was simply lost to time. To this day, you can still find a couple of items like an emote or the back bling still in the files. Sometimes collabs don't even make it that far because a whole festival season got scrapped. New Jeans was planned to be the 7th season for the game mode, but then perfect timing hit when their group had issues with their agency and the collab soon fell through. That left Miku to take their place. A few years ago, we could have never dreamed of Fortnite adding horror villains like Saw or Leatherface, but the year prior we had rumors of another iconic character coming, Jason Vorhees. It all started when the official account started following Fortnite out of nowhere, followed by an announcement from the Jason universe that they were expanding to a wide range of platforms and experiences. The community does what it does and started speculating, and they even added more fuel to the fire when they replied with just an eye emoji. Obviously, time passed and we never saw the collab happen, but with Epic's new acceptance for horror collabs during Fortnite Mares, it is only a matter of time. After all, he has technically already got an Easter egg and saved the world. And while Family Guy took many years to arrive, at least we got it. But did you know there was actually meant to be a lot more? Thanks to insider leaks, people discovered that the glider was originally going to be a cardboard cutout. The trailer was going to be Peter hurting his knee in the middle of a battle, and they'd even have Lego styles. 20th Century even had issues with him being a boss that we'd fight at first, disliking that he'd be seen as a bad person. Obviously, Epic negotiated and made it happen, just leaving him off the boss boards instead. Something else that got entirely reworked was the Frozen SMG. It was first added in the middle of Chapter 2 and literally gave you icy feet for shooting it. Some people love the idea of going insanely fast, while others hated how uncontrollable it is. Either way, Epic ultimately never finished the weapon, turning it into things like the Icy Grappler or the Icy Slide Augment. One thing the community is still hoping will come to light is the Last Reality's General. This guy was revealed thanks to an artist concepts, giving us a look at a whole character we never got to see. Whether he's a part of the storyline that got cut or an upcoming idea for the future, we could only wait and see. All I know is that bringing back the Last Reality with someone like this will make this storyline feel crazy again. Here's one of the funniest times something got scrapped because Epic just forgot. At the end of 2023, we got some stuff added for Winterfest. It didn't seem like much, so when the event ended and the next update rolled around, it was pretty weird to see more Christmas items get added. We had a snowflake emote to playing ice hockey. Everything was put in the game just late. Thankfully, they could still release or be saved for next year, but not all of them. Shave the Date literally had 2024 in it, dating it immediately, and the snowblower used the old Winterfest theme from that year. Let's move on to one of the most infamous skins of all time, Brilliant Bomber. She was originally planned to debut the annual pass, Epic's first idea for the crew, where you pay almost 8,000 V-Bucks yearly, and you get a bunch of skins in every pass for 12 months. Obviously, this was all redesigned into the subscription we have today, and skins like Bash and Astro were released into the shop, all except for Brilliant Bomber. Both her and Loons have been lost to time, officially becoming the oldest skin to never release. Maybe we could have beat her with Space Pistol, a tiny gun which packed a punch. This thing fired giant lasers at enemies that bounced off the walls. Most of the idea probably got reused for other guns over the years, but we have still never had bullets that can bounce around. And they should have also kept the airstrike laser in the game. Imagine the airstrike grenade and mix it with the anvil launcher, because this thing could call in an airstrike from a distance, raining explosions on your enemy. Rewinding back to chapter 4, this was the only time we had reality augments in the game. Obviously, the entire mechanic was deleted and replaced with boons, but it's cool to see what other augments Epic had planned. One was a double-sided hook, which gave you 2 fish for the price of 1. Then we had the foodie, which gave a random movement effect when eating, and heat seeker that straight up unlocked thermal vision. Another really unique item is the big poppy. It was in the works all the way back in chapter 1, and I can't really explain it more than a giant balloon that would destroy anything in its path. Pretty unique idea that probably evolved into things like the storm flip or the boombox. Here's an item you'll recognize, the golden ticket. Now, you might not know it as this, but this was actually Fortnite's first version of the reboot van. It would have brought back everyone on your team and even delivered them on your personal battle bus. Nowadays, we have reboot cards and vans, and in the most recent updates, you can even buy them back or get upgraded loot. What I find very disappointing is how Epic completely got rid of weapon charms. These were some of the most leaked updates in Fortnite history. I mean, they had been in the works since early chapter 1. Well, in 2024, they were deleted from the files and all mention of them was erased. The leading theory is that first person being introduced completely changed how weapon charms would work, and they decided to scrap it rather than overhaul the entire thing. Hopefully, they come back to this idea one day because this would rock in Ballistic. They also had the idea of an energy crystal, which was a power-up you keep in your inventory to receive special buffs. You walk around slower but receive double your fire rate and the speed that you could harvest resources. I'm actually thinking about it right now, isn't that Gold Rush? The Seeker was another strange weapon in development. It shot out tiny drones into the air that locked onto the nearest player, and it just head straight for him and exploded. It's a pretty fun design that we've seen multiple times now with other kinds of lock-on weapons, so it makes sense it never came out. What about the canceled Greek god Mythic? Back in Myths and Mortals, there were a lot of items to choose from, except there would have been even more like the Firehammer Mythic. It never released because the guy it belongs to, Hephaestus, was also scrapped. At least we got to see what a skin would have looked like in the surveys before the season even dropped. I still wonder why we've never been able to eat a Durrr burger though. In the old days, Epic planned for consumables to spawn in the restaurants, letting us try a Durrr burger, even a shake. That would just give you health and shields like the forged items we know today, and nobody has any idea why this was a cut feature, especially since it was basically finished. We also got to see concept art of the Citadel. Now, the exterior images showing a huge waterfall on a bridge have been around for quite some time. I mean, Fortnite literally uses them as paintings on the map, but you never got to see the designs from the inside, and it's so different to what the POI ended up actually looking like. What about the most infamous glider of all time? Years ago, the Fortnite community was in a frenzy, all because we were trying to unlock the golden umbrella. There were a bunch of variants that got added, from bronze all the way to platinum, and people were expected to be given out for hitting win milestones. Comp players could even try them out in special LAN tournaments, but aside from that, they were never released to the public. Now, I feel like it was totally taken over by the rank gliders. What was the scrapped update you wanted to try out the most? Let me know in the comments. It's been Tommy, and keep it here on Top 5 Gaming.